What if I told you the biggest spoiler in the history of the Avatar universe wasn't, leaked by some rogue animator?
Right.
It wasn't stolen by a hacker. And it definitely didn't come from a disgruntled writer sneaking a script out of a boardroom.
No, the truth is actually way more boring than that.
So much more boring. The most devastating leak in this entire franchise's history came from, I kid you not, an accountant's Excel spreadsheet.
The banality of that is almost poetry, honestly.
Right.
We build up these grand mythologies in our heads about how insider information gets out. We picture, clandestine meetings and whispered secrets in parking garages.
Totally. Like a spy movie.
Exactly. But the reality is usually just someone in the finance department categorizing a beloved piece of art as a Q4 revenue projection.
Just another cell on a spreadsheet, which is it's the perfect starting point for us. So welcome to the deep dive. It is fantastic to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
Okay, let's unpack this. But first, let's take a second to ground ourselves in the present moment. For you listening at home, it is August 2026.
A very good time to be a fan.
An amazing time. If you are a fan of world building and incredible animation, you are probably having the best month of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now, Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender, is streaming on Paramount Plus, and the reviews are just pouring in.
And they're phenomenal.
They really are. I mean, critics are genuinely comparing this film to the works of Hayao Miyazaki.
Which is the highest praise you can get in animation.
Exactly. It is a sweeping, beautifully realized love letter to the original series. And we already know the next series, Avatar, Seven Havens, is on the horizon.
The franchise is thriving. It's breathing.
It really is. After years of starts and stops, Avatar Studios has delivered on the promise they made when they first formed the studio.
Yeah, they put a flag in the ground, declared that they were expanding the universe, and with the Aang movie, they delivered a monumental...
But today, we aren't looking at what is. We are looking at the ghost of what almost was.
The shadow looming right behind that Aang movie.
Yes, exactly. My goal today is to unpack this specific shadow, because our sources paint a picture of a heartbreaking what-if scenario.
It really is a tragedy of, corporate logistics.
So we are pulling from two phenomenal sources today. First, we have an incredibly detailed breakdown from a YouTube channel called The Avatarist.
Great channel.
Really great. It's a creator who truly gets into the microscopic weeds of fandom rumors and production timelines.
They do the heavy lifting, for sure.
And second, we have an explosive, exclusive report from Caleb Williams at Night Edge Media.
And this goes far beyond the usual internet rumor mill.
Oh, way beyond.
The sources detail a fully conceptualized, highly developed theatrical project that was actively in production before it was abruptly...
Just completely axed.
Right. We are dissecting how art, corporate mandates, and fandom expectations collide in real time.
So we are diving into the newly revealed and permanently canceled Fire Lord Zuko animated movie.
A movie that a lot of people suspected was real, but...
we didn't know the extent of it. We're going to explore the frankly absurd corporate mechanics of how this movie leaked to the public, the heavy lore implications of its scrapped plot.
Which is wild, by the way.
Oh, it's totally wild. It involved murdered dragons and royal assassinations.
Slight family drama.
Right. And we'll also get into the very poignant reality of a changing guard in the voice acting.
Which is a huge part of this story.
It really is. But before we get into the plot, we have to look at how you, me, and the general public even found out this movie existed.
Because the creators tried very hard to manage.
They really did. Yeah. And it unraveled in spectacular fashion. Let's wind the clock back to San Diego Comic-Con, SDCC 2020.
It's a little while ago.
Yeah. Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, the creators of the Avatar universe, are up on stage.
And they are addressing the elephant in the room.
Right. The 2022 leak by an outlet called Avatar News, which claimed there were separate movies coming about Avatar Kyoshi, Fire Lord Zuko, and Avatar Korra.
Put yourself in their shoes for a moment.
Okay.
When you are on a stage like Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, you are in the crucible of pop culture.
Oh, it's intense.
Hall H is a cavernous auditorium. It's packed with over 6,000 of your most diehard fans hanging on every syllable.
Plus dozens of entertainment journalists.
Exactly. And critically, your corporate bosses are watching the live stream to see how you handle public relations.
Sure, right?
You have to control the narrative.
So Mike and Brian get up there, and they address the 2022 leaks head on. They tell the crowd, listen, those leaks were half right and half wrong.
Which is a very clever way to phrase it.
Yeah, they imply some of these were just brainstormed ideas like the Kyoshi film. Then they blame a mole.
The infamous mole.
Right. They claim someone inside the production was leaking information that wasn't entirely accurate, spinning this story that everything else was put on hold just to focus on the Aang.
And then they pivot to Zuko.
Yeah, they say the Zuko movie is a script they feel very confident about, but it's just sitting there waiting to be greenlit.
Waiting in the wings.
Exactly. They tell the fans it all hinges on how well the Aang movie performs.
That is the safest, most standard Hollywood answer you can give.
It really sounds like PR 101.
It absolutely is. It protects the current project, the Aang movie, by making it the singular priority.
Right.
It tempers expectations for the future, effectively telling the audience, don't look at the man behind the curtain, just watch the show we are putting on today.
It is a classic deflection strategy.
100%.
But the thing that completely threw me off when I read the source material was discovering who that man behind the curtain actually was.
Right, the identity of the so-called mole.
It wasn't a creative mole in the writers. The YouTube source, the Avatarist, completely deconstructs this.
He really spilled the beans on them.
He did. The leak allegedly came from someone with access to Paramount's internal finance sheets.
An Excel
spreadsheet. This document had projected dates for incoming revenue. The leaker saw working titles tied to fiscal quarter.
So they saw untitled Zuko Avatar film sitting next to a specific date when Paramount expected to see a return on their investment.
Right. It highlights a crucial disconnect between creators and corporations.
It really does. To the finance department, a deeply emotional story about Fire Lord Zuko's trauma is indistinguishable from any other product.
It's just a line item.
Exactly. In fact, your source mentioned the very first thing listed on that financial sheet was a patch for a video game titled Quest Rebalance.
Which is hilarious.
It really is.
You have a multi-million-dollar cinematic universe expanding, and it's sharing spreadsheet cells with a video game patch.
Just treated with the exact same weight.
But it's also, infuriating. You are looking at the publisher's accounting ledger and trying to guess the plot of a novel.
That's a great way to put it.
You see the dates, the names, the dollar amounts, but you miss all the nuance. You only see the skeleton of the corporation's financial intent.
And this is where the story takes a harsh turn.
A very harsh turn, because at that SDCC panel, Mike and Brian implied the Zuko film was waiting in the wing. They pitched a message of creative optimism.
What's fascinating here is that Night Edge Media's exclusive report shatters that optimism.
Completely shatters it.
Caleb Williams dropped a minor update in his piece that carries staggering implications.
Yeah, what was he up?
He reported that Paramount, the parent company, specifically ordered the Zuko film killed.
Wow.
It wasn't waiting for the Aang movie to finish. According to Night Edge, Zuko was definitively next on the slate.
It was ready to go.
It was the furthest along in development. They were already in the voiceover stage and had pre-viz animation completed.
Pre-viz was done.
Paramount simply stepped in and forced Avatar Studios to pull the plug.
Okay, for people listening who don't follow the day-to-day mechanics of Hollywood animation pipeline, can you explain what pre-viz actually means?
Sure.
Why is it such a big deal to cancel a movie once it reaches that specific stage?
So pre-viz is short for pre-visualization. Okay.
In animation, before you spend the staggering amount of money required to render final frame, whether that's 2D hand-drawn or 3D computer generation, you create a rough draft of the entire movie.
Like a very detailed sketch of the whole thing.
Exactly. You storyboard it, you edit those storyboards together into an animatic, you record the voice actors so you have the timing of the dialogue, and you map out the camera movements.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is. By the time a studio finishes pre-viz, they have effectively made the entire movie in rough form.
Wow.
They have also spent millions of dollars to get to that point.
Millions. So canceling it isn't just tossing a script in the trash.
Not at all.
It's destroying a partially constructed building.
Precisely. To kill a project at that stage is never a casual creative pivot.
Right.
It is a hard, calculated financial mandate from the very top. It is a tax write-off.
Ouch.
We saw Warner Bros.
Oh.
Discovery do this recently with the Batgirl movie.
Right, that was a huge scandal.
They shelved a nearly finished film purely to claim a loss on their corporate tax. And you think that's what happened here?
It seems like it. Paramount looked at their ledger, looked at the projected cost to finish the Zuko film versus the guaranteed tax write-off of killing it, and the math favored the write-off.
That makes the Comic-Con panel feel completely different in hindsight.
It really does.
We have this tension between the creators standing on stage, looking at their fans saying, we love this script, we're just waiting for the green light, and the harsh reality that a Paramount executive had already taken a red pen to it.
Right.
Why do you think Mike and Brian played it so coy?
Well, you have to consider the power dynamics at play.
Okay, meaning what?
Avatar Studios is a subsidiary operating under the massive umbrella of Paramount. Mike and Brian are the creative soul of the franchise, but they do not hold the purse.
They don't write the checks.
Exactly. When you are on stage at Comic-Con, you cannot publicly throw your parent company under the bus.
Obviously.
You cannot look at a camera and say, we had this beautiful, fully cast movie, and Paramount slaughtered it for a tax break.
That is career suicide.
100.
So you massage the truth to survive.
You say, it's waiting to be greenlit, you protect your own jobs, but more importantly, you protect the morale of the fan base.
That makes sense.
If you announce the brutal corporate execution of a beloved character's spin-off movie right as you're trying to promote the Aang movie that did survive, the fandom's excitement turns into ouch.
Yeah, the whole narrative shifts.
The narrative becomes about corporate greed instead of artistic triumph.
Which is a PR night, but man, it is infuriating. Spreadsheet killed this. But it's even worse when you look at the actual creative capital that was lost on that balance sheet.
It's heartbreaking.
Let's shift gears and look at what Paramount actually erased. The sources gave us a detailed look at the plot, and the lost lore here found.
Very perfect.
It fundamentally alters the timeline and the world building of the universe.
The premise alone is incredibly heavy. The script centered around a murder.
And not just any murder. The mysterious murder of the ancient dragon, Ran and Shaw.
This is a huge deal.
It's huge. For anyone listening who needs a quick refresher, Ran and Shaw were introduced in Book 3 of the original animated series.
In the Sun Warriors episode.
Right. They are the ancient, magnificent masters of firebend. They taught Zuko and Aang the true meaning of fire, that it's energy and life, not just anger and destruction.
They are essentially demigods.
Exactly.
They represent the spiritual purity of firebending. They are the antithesis of the corrupted, militarized firebending that the Fire Nation weaponized during a 100-year war.
Right. The anger-driven stuff.
Yeah. So to murder them is a spiritual desecration. It is a direct attack on the very soul of the Fire Nation's cultural rehabilitation under Zuko's leadership.
It's a colossal inciting incident. And because of this assassination, Zuko is left with a heavy burden.
A very literal burden.
According to the plot leaks, he is left with the last living dragon egg.
Which is just a stunning visual concept.
It is. And this is the exact same egg that he and Aang noticed sitting on a pedestal in the Sun Warrior ruins back in Book 3.
Which is a great callback.
The narrative intent here is brilliant because it perfectly sets up his status as an older adult in the sequel series, The Legend of Korra, where we actually see him riding a dragon.
It creates a beautiful, tragic narrative bridge.
Yeah.
It explains the transition from the young, struggling Fire Lord to the dragon-riding elder states. He didn't just stumble upon a dragon companion.
Right, he earned it.
He became the sole protector of the species after horrific tragedy. That shared trauma adds profound weight to his relationship with his mount.
It's so poetic. But this is where the hardcore fandom discourse gets very loud.
Oh, the canon debate.
The canon debate. The YouTuber, the Avatar, points out a deep-cut lore contradiction.
And it's a big...
If you look at the official Avatar RPG, the tabletop role-playing game, which was heavily vetted by the studio and considered canon, the lore states something completely different.
Right.
The RPG says that Zuko finds his dragon, Druk, as a juvenile, not as an egg, and he raises him from that juvenile state.
Which is a very different dynamic than carrying around a frat.
Exactly. The RPG also confirms that Druk is a direct descendant of Ran and Shaw.
So we have a direct conflict of canonical events.
We really do.
The leaked movie script revolves around Zuko protecting an egg and presumably watching it hatch. The published RPG rulebook states he found a toddler-aged dragon.
So as someone who loves diving into world building, I have to ask you, is this just sloppy writing?
I wouldn't call it sloppy.
Or is adapting lore across different mediums basically a giant corporate game of telephone? Like, if the original creators, Mike and Brian, are willing to just override the established RPG lore to make a better cinematic moment, does strict canon even matter anymore?
That is the big question.
Should fans feel cheated when a rulebook they bought gets invalidated?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the primary visual medium will always act as an apex predator to the supplemental lore.
Apex predator, I love that.
That is the golden rule of franchise storytelling. We treat the concept of canon like it is a sacred historical text. If the history book says the dragon was a juvenile, then the movie must reflect that, or fans declare it a plot hole. But original creators rarely view their own canon with that level of...
They view it as a toolkit, not a straitjacket.
Precisely. To a creator, canon serves the immediate emotional needs of the story they are currently telling.
And what's the emotional truth here?
The emotional truth they wanted to convey in this movie was Zuko protecting the fragile legacy of Ran and Shaw.
Right.
A delicate, unhatched egg visually communicates vulnerability much better than a juvenile dragon capable of running around.
Oh, that makes so much sense visually.
Right. The RPG is a medium that required certain lore to function mechanically as a tabletop game. A theatrical film is a medium that demands sweeping, emotional, visual arcs.
They're totally different beasts.
A director will always sacrifice strict adherence to a supplemental rulebook if it means achieving a more resonant emotional...
We see this across the industry. Star Wars franchise, Horus.
Oh, concept.
The books and comics will establish incredibly intricate backstories for a character, and then a Disney Plus show comes along and completely overwrites because the showrunner had a different vision.
And the fans lose their...
They do.
Yeah.
Fans struggle with this because they invest time and money into consuming every piece of media, expecting it all to fit together like a perfect, interlocking puzzle.
It is a difficult pill to swallow for the most dedicated fans, but you have to remember that transmedia storytelling spreading a single narrative universe across games, comics, and film is inherently messy.
Yeah, it's never perfect.
Different mediums require different pacing and different stakes.
Even with that discrepancy, the Dragon Egg debate is just the tip of the iceberg when we look at the themes this movie was preparing to tackle.
The dragon murder is just the start.
Right. The murder of the dragons is only the inciting incident. The real core of this scrapped film, according to Night Edge Media, was a deep dive into the deeply damaged dynamic of the Fire Nation royal family after the 100-Year War.
Arguably the most complex, psychologically scarred family in modern.
The leaks reveal the next major plot. Following the death of the dragons, there is a brutal assassination attempt on Uncle Iroh.
Which is just heartbreaking to even think about.
Right. But this attempt on Iroh's life isn't just about killing the beloved former general. It is a calculated trap.
It's bait.
It is designed specifically as bait to draw Fire Lord Zuko out of his fortified palace and into the open for the mysterious assassin.
And who is the assassin?
Well, the film was set to delve heavily into Zuko's relationship with his sister, Azula.
Targeting Iroh is psychological warfare.
Absolutely.
Iroh is Zuko's surrogate father, his moral anchor, and the architect of his redemption. To attack Iroh is to attack the very foundation of Zuko's sin.
It's hitting him where it hurts the most.
It forces Zuko to abandon the political sphere of being a world leader and drags him back into the intensely personal, deeply traumatic family affair that defined his childhood.
The sources indicate the script was drawing heavy inspiration from the official comic series, specifically The Search in Smoke and Shadow.
Those are essential reading for Azula's arc.
They really are. Those comics dealt directly with Azula's time in a mental institution, her eventual escape, and her chaotic attempts to manipulate Zuko from the shadows.
Right.
The YouTuber, the Avatarist, speculates very heavily based on these narrative threads that Azula was being positioned as the main villain, the mysterious assassin who killed the dragons and targeted Iroh.
The psychological framing of that choice is fascinating.
How so?
If Azula is the assassin, she isn't just attacking people, she is systematically executing the symbols of Zuko's redemption and the Fire Nation era.
Oh, yeah.
She is attempting to drag him back into the cycle of violence that their father Ozai.
But this is where the fandom discourse gets incredibly intense, and where the Avatarist raises a massive red flag regarding timeline and character development.
There's a big contradiction here, right?
A huge one. There's a recent highly praised comic called Azula in the Spirit Temple.
Yes.
In that specific story, Azula is a 15-year-old girl taking her first tentative, painful step toward genuine rehabilitation. She is confronting her demon. She is showing a desire to heal.
It is a delicate character arc that fans have been waiting years.
Right, but the canceled movie takes place roughly 10 years after that comic. Zuko is an established adult Fire Lord.
So she'd be around 25?
Exactly. The YouTuber argues that it feels fundamentally broken to see a 25 to 30-year-old Azula completely regressing to the point where she is brutally murdering ancient demigods and trying to assassinate her Uncle Iroh.
It feels like a betrayal to the comic reader.
It feels like the writers are wiping out 10 years of potential growth just to force her back into the role of the antagonist.
This raises an important question about how we consume stories involving trauma and rehabilitation.
Okay, I'm listening.
We are conditioned by traditional cinematic storytelling to view redemption as a linear stair. Character does something terrible, they realize the error of their ways, they apologize, they perform heroic acts, and they reach the top of the stairs fully
like Zuko did.
Exact. We expect our heroes and villains to follow a clean trajectory.
But human psychology, especially involving severe trauma, doesn't operate on a clean trajectory.
It operates in loops and spirals.
Yeah.
Real redemption, particularly for someone who endured the kind of profound psychological Azula did, is incredibly messy.
It's not a straight line at all.
No. We are talking about a character who was raised as a child soldier, molded into a weapon of mass destruction by a sociopathic father and burdened with the expectations of royalty.
Right.
Recovery from that level of indoctrination is not a straight line. It is 2 steps forward, followed by 5 mass back.
I understand the psychological realism. I really do. But as an audience member, it's exhausting.
It is.
We demand our fictional characters be perfectly healed because we want the satisfaction of a closed narrative loop.
Right. We want the neat bow on top.
When writers force a character to regress, fans often feel betrayed. They ask, why did I invest my time reading a comic about her healing if she's just going to turn around and try to kill Iroh a decade later?
It is undeniably painful for the audience to watch, which is why writers often avoid it.
Yeah.
But from a narrative standpoint, writing a long-term redemption arc without catastrophic setback is almost dishonest to the reality of deeply ingrained trauma.
That's a really good point.
Imagine a 25-year-old Azula. She might have spent a decade trying to be good, feeling constantly isolated, realizing she fundamentally doesn't fit into Zuko's shiny, new, peaceful society.
She doesn't have a place anymore.
Exactly. In a moment of intense emotional trigger or crisis, it is entirely believable that she would revert to the only language she was ever taught to speak fluently, violence and manipulation.
She is lashing out at Iroh and the dragons because they represent a serenity she feels she is incapable of achieving.
That's exactly it.
That makes the conflict so much richer than just painting her as crazy and evil. It turns the movie into a tragedy.
A profound tragedy.
If they had managed to pull that off on screen, asking the audience to sit with the uncomfortable reality that broken people often break things while trying to heal, it would have been a masterclass in animated storytelling.
And that emotional weight is exactly why it is such a profound loss that Paramount killed the project.
It really is.
This was not going to be a simple, sanitized adventure. It was shaping up to be a complex psychological thriller about generational trauma wrapped in the visual splendor of a fantasy epic.
Man, that hurts to lose. And a movie about aging characters 10 years down the timeline naturally brings us to the real-life aging of the people who bring those characters to life.
The voice acting.
The Zuko film wasn't just bringing back older versions of the characters. It was establishing a completely new cast.
This is a huge shift.
This is where the story shifts from corporate intrigue and lore debates into something deeply emotional for the real-life people involved.
Recasting is always a tightrope walk for a studio, especially when dealing with a franchise.
It's risky.
Fans form parasocial bonds not just with the animated avatars, but with the vocal performances that breathe life into them.
Night Edge Media revealed the incredible detail that Steven Yeun was explicitly signed to voice Firelord Zuko in this scrapped movie.
Which is incredible casting.
In fact, the article notes that Yeun signed on more for this specific Zuko-centric film than for the Avatar Aang film, because his lines as Zuko in the Aang film were relatively limited.
So this was supposed to be his big moment.
This canceled project was going to be Steven Yeun's leading role in the franchise. Alongside him, a new, currently unnamed actress was signed to replace the legendary Grey Delisle as Azula.
Steven Yeun is a phenomenal casting choice on paper.
Oh, absolutely.
His work in both live action and voiceover, particularly his complex performance in the animated Invincible, proves he has the exact emotional range to handle a deeply conflicted, traumatized adult Zuko.
You would have crushed it.
But casting him comes at a significant cost to the legacy of the original series.
Because for 20 years, Zuko has been Dante Basco. Dante Basco's voice is iconic. The specific rasp, the teenage angst, the desperation for honor, that is all Dante.
You hear that voice and you immediately see the scar.
Exactly. The Avatarist video covers Dante's reaction to this entire recasting situation, and it is a genuinely poignant behind-the-scenes story.
It's very touching.
Dante worked with Avatar Studios for 2 decades. Mike and Brian aren't just his bosses, they are his friends. When the time came to make the change, they called a personal face-to-face meeting with Dante to explain the recast.
Which is exceedingly rare in the modern industry.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. Usually an actor finds out they have been recast through an email to their agent, or worse, they read about it in a press release online.
That's awful.
The fact that the creators sat him down speaks to the immense respect they have for his foundational content to the character.
Dante explained the reasoning they gave him during that meeting. They told him they wanted to cast a whole new generation, and critically, they wanted the cast to be more ethnically accurate, even though it is purely voiceover work. They admitted to Dante that out of the entire original cast, he was the only actor who could still physically play his character. His voice could still hit the exact right register for an adult Zuko.
Which makes it even harder.
But they felt it would be creatively jarring to have the OG actor surrounded by an entirely new cast. They wanted a clean break for the new era.
This touches on one of the most significant and debated shifts in the animation industry over the last decade.
The push for authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The standard for voiceover work has evolved dramatically since the early 2000s when the
How so?
Back then, the industry standard was essentially colorblind casting in the recording. The philosophy was that animation frees you from your physical appearance. The voice was all that mattered.
Right.
But today, there is a necessary push for authentic representation, ensuring that the actors voicing characters of color actually share that heritage.
So what is this all? I find myself wrestling with the studio's logic, and I'm echoing the sentiment of the YouTube source.
It's a complicated debate.
The Avatarist stated he wouldn't have cared if Dante sounded a little different or older than the rest of the new cast. He just wanted Dante as Zuko.
Right, the nostalgia factor.
Does a push for generational consistency and demographic accuracy outweigh the deep, visceral, emotional connection fans have to the original performer?
It's a tough call.
If I close my eyes and Zuko doesn't sound like Dante Basco, is it really Zuko to the fans who grew up with him?
That is the eternal struggle of legacy media. You are constantly weighing nostalgia against evolution.
Right.
Nostalgia demands everything stay exactly the same, which eventually leads to creative stagnation. Evolution requires change, which inherently causes friction with longtime fans.
Dante's response to this entire situation is what truly elevates the conversation, honestly. His reaction was incredibly gracious, almost shockingly so, for an industry defined by ego and contract.
He handled it beautifully.
He told Mike and Brian, "You don't need to justify your decisions to me in any way, shape, or form."
He recognized the bigger picture, which requires a tremendous amount of maturity. He compared the Avatar franchise to Star Wars. He understands that these are expansive universes that must grow and adapt with different generations of audience.
He sees himself as just one piece of the puzzle.
Dante recognized that Zuko as a cultural icon is bigger than Dante Basco the actor, just as James Bond is bigger than Sean Connery, or Batman is bigger than any single act cowl.
It's the painful reality of passing the torch.
It requires an accept that their time as the primary steward of a character has passed, and that it is time to let a new performer, Yeun, bring their own lived experience, talent, and interpretation.
Right.
The shift toward ethnically accurate casting isn't just about ticking boxes for public relations. It is about acknowledging that the profound cultural inspiration of the Avatar world draw heavily from Asian and indigenous culture should be reflected in the performers who bring those characters.
It grounds the fantasy in a real cultural respect.
It is about opening industry doors that were previously closed or heavily.
Even if it means retiring beloved legacy actors to make room, it is a bittersweet reality.
Very bitter.
It is necessary progress, but progress often comes with a palpable sense of loss for the familiarity of what is left behind.
We mourn the voice we grew up.
Dante hopes he can still voice a new character down the line.
Mm-hmm.
He actually joked about coming back to do some random firebendry stuff.
Yeah.
But the era of his specific Zuko is over.
Yeah.
The ultimate tragedy here, circling all the way back to the beginning of our deep dive, is that Steven Yeun's era of Zuko was killed in the crib by Paramount.
It is the ultimate irony.
It's so frustrating.
The creators went through the emotional turmoil of recasting. They sat down with their friends, had these difficult, necessary conversations about representation and legacy, hired a brilliant new actor, and recorded the lines.
They did the hard work.
They did everything right creatively, only for an accountant at Paramount to decide the art was more valuable as a tax write-off. We lost the legacy actor for a noble, forward-thinking reason, but corporate mechanics stepped in and destroyed the new actor's chance to shine before the public even heard a single line of dialogue.
It just makes my head spin trying to process all the moving parts.
A lot to take in.
Let's bring this all together. We've gone on a fascinating journey today. We started with the sheer absurdity of a literal Paramount finance sheet, accidentally announcing a slate of highly anticipated films to millions of fans because of a Q4 revenue projection.
Right.
We moved into the stunning dark lore of a scrapped plot involving the murder of the ancient dragon, Ran and Shaw, a contradictory dragon egg that challenged the nature of canon, and a brutal psychological assassination attempt on Uncle Iroh.
The plot we'll never see.
We explored the messy, painful reality of Azula's nonlinear trauma and character regression. Finally, we looked at the poignant passing of the torch from Dante Basco to Steven Yeun and the evolving ethics of representation in voice acting.
If we connect all of this to you, the listener, I think this scrapped film serves as a perfect case study in how the media we consume is actually shaped.
How do you mean?
Well, we like to imagine a romanticized version of Hollywood where creators sit at their typewriters and pure art flows directly to the screen.
Right, the auteur myth.
The reality is that art is shaped by invisible hands. It is molded by finance sheets, executive mandates, shifting cultural standards around casting, and the intense, often suffocating pressure of fandom expectations.
Peeking behind the curtain like this makes us so much more critical and honestly so much more appreciative of the art that does manage to survive the gauntlet of production.
Oh, absolutely.
When you watch the Aang movie that is streaming right now, you aren't just watching a beautiful piece of animation. You are watching a survivor.
That's a great way to put it.
You are watching a miracle of logistics, creative compromise, and corporate approval.
It is a minor miracle whenever something brilliant makes its soul intact.
I want to leave you with one final lingering question. A provocative thought derived from the very plot of this dead movie. If this film is truly dead and buried by Paramount, locked away in a vault forever, we may never get the canonical answer to the central mystery of the script.
Right. We don't know the ending.
We may never know who actually murdered the ancient dragons Ran and Shaw.
The YouTube speculation heavily pointed toward Azula, but what?
If it was Azula, it completely upends her path to redemption in the comic. But what if it wasn't?
That's the real
What if there was an entirely unseen force in the Avatar universe, a new faction, a political uprising, or a forgotten enemy waiting in the wings to wipe out the original masters of fear-bending?
a completely new threat.
What if Azula, despite all her trauma and regression, was actually being framed?
It is a tantalizing mystery that recontextualizes the entire political landscape of the Fire.
Completely changes it.
And because the film was killed, that mystery is, for now, completely lost to Hollywood's cutting room floor.
Which brings us right back to the beginning. We want clarity. We want to know exactly what this Zuko movie is going to be and why it disappeared.
Naturally.
But the truth is, we are just standing in the murky waters of Hollywood production, looking at the scattered pieces of a broken machine, imagining the incredible story that almost was.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.